let's make sure we weren't followed first.
I've been keeping watch, demoiselle. I haven't spotted anyone suspicious thus far.
Huh, very good. But let's not let our guard down for now.
I shall find rooms for our respected guests.
Thank you, Malus. Now, let's continue, traveler.
Dobbiamo continuare a fare qui sotto. Cioè, Navia ci ha preparato gli alloggi nel seminterrato? Cioè nei sotterranei? Rubiamo questo aiae. Grazie. Ah, qui sopra c'era un teleport. Ce n'è uno anche qua. Oh. Punto di osservazione. Terra delle ombre corrotte e delle correnti contaminate dell'archivio. Interessante. E dobbiamo andare di qua. Consulente legale. Wow.
This is your base? It's not quite what Paimon imagined.
Your accommodations have been arranged. Under the present circumstances, I can confidently say it's the best we have.
Well, our funds have been a little tight lately. After all, we don't allow illegal or unethical profiteering. In fact, our funds often come from citizenry who support us.
Seems like it's tough times for everyone. But if you have the support of the people, that does sound like it's worth it.
To be honest, our financial situation was a lot better back when my father was in charge a few years ago. I'm afraid I'm not quite his equal.
Your father... he was the previous boss of Spina di Rosula, right? How did he...
Demoiselle, if you'll allow me to explain.
No. I'll explain it myself. I suppose I couldn't run from this topic forever. And as partners, this is something I hope they can understand. My father's name is Callus. Yes, the same one they call Callus the Unfaithful in the streets. 3 years ago, he was accused of murdering his own friend.
Bellissima la colonna sonora. Cioè, tutte queste colonne sonore sono bellissime.
He died in the duelist's ring.
Oh no.
But I do not believe my father was a murderer. I'm sure he was set up. At the time, I believed that if he only stood trial and was duly investigated, something amiss would crop up and prove his innocence. But strangely, he not only requested the duel himself, but rumor has it that even after being seriously injured, to the point where he could be deemed as having lost the duel, he refused to surrender, determined to die in the arena. 3 years later, I still don't understand why he did that. How could he protect his honor if he's dead? If anything, he gave up his chance to defend himself. The closest piece of info I have is that my father had been investigating the serial disappearances case at the time of his death.
Ah, so that's why you're so determined to get to the bottom of that case.
That's right. I've also tried to investigate the murder my father was implicated in, but I haven't found a single new clue in my countless reviews of the investigation records. However, I believe that if the murder case is related to those behind the disappearances, they must know something. I must know what really happened.
Vi prego, non fateci indagare sulla morte del padre Di Navia, perché guarda.
Get to the truth.
Bene.
If only he'd been more open with me when he was still alive.
Aiuto.
He even hid the fact that my mother died due to complications when giving birth to me. And now, here I am investigating his death. You really are a handful, aren't you, Papa?
Ottimo.
Demoiselle, please, if there is anything I can do, anything at all.
Sì, fate voi per favore l'investigazione. Noi vorremmo esplorare, sapete.
None whom I respect more than the two of you, demoiselle. Master Callus did so much good in life, yet all it took was one murder case for him to be dubbed Callus the Unfaithful. Even our supporters decreased greatly due to that incident, hence our strained finances at present.
Wait, if Callus was such a good man, wouldn't people at least be a little suspicious when he was accused?
No. Perhaps people just revel in that kind of drama. It's not something exclusive to people from Fontaine, really. Everyone's like that. People love watching the evil turn over a new leaf.
Quelli di Fontaine
Also enjoy
amano il
watching
dramma.
good people fall into an abyss from one slip-up just as much.
But how could... never mind. If Callus was really falsely accused, we have to find the truth.
No.
He didn't deserve to have that happen to him.
Vai, mamma, i fatti
There
tuoi.
is one
Quando?
other thing. Master Callus's opponent in the duel was Ms. Clorand.
Oh, her? Well, then, isn't that as good as saying that
È
she
stata
was
Clorenda ad ammazzare il padre di Navia. Oh mio Dio. Mi serve la ventolina.
Thing that you can just let go and move on from?
Metti il 30
Ms.
frame per
Clorand
secondo.
has always placed great emphasis
Come
on the
metti tu? Io sono già a
honorable
30
nature
frame per
of the
secondo.
duel. If her opponent doesn't yield, she will not stop either. She knew
Oddio.
Master Callus beforehand and greatly respected him, but seeing how he was resolute in the arena, there was only ever one choice she could have made.
Vabbè.
It's not that I don't understand her at all, but I just can't deal with this yet.
Don't worry,
Sarà
Nadia.
stata in combutta come Silente con
You don't have to
Piton.
force yourself to do that.
Una cosa del
Ms.
genere.
Clorand told us that at the start of the duel, Master Callus requested that she ensure Demoiselle Navia's safety.
Capito, cioè, sapevano già.
Yes, that is our understanding as well.
Oh, Papa. What madness drove you to ask the person who killed you to take care of me? All right. Anyway, that's the information I wanted to share with you. Even if it did sound like I was just complaining towards the end.
No, no.
Thanks. You two should go and rest. This was quite a day after all.
Gli stanno molto bene i colori del blu sul
Please,
trailer, vero?
relax and get some sleep.
Sono molto
We will
carini.
ensure you rest soundly.
Ok, allora restiamo. Restiamo nelle nostre stanze. Qui c'è qualcosa, vediamo un po' da fare. C'è un ristorante, ma c'è un altro. Nel nostro stesso piano c'è questo. No, questo waypoint è sopra. Vabbè, riposiamo. Ah, proprio così, non ci fanno nemmeno entrare dentro alla stanza. Benissimo.
Paimon slept so well. This place feels almost too safe. Huh? Navia? Where did the other two go?
I sent them back to Poisson. It's Spina de Rosula's place of origin, and where we have our headquarters. There's not much for them to do here at the moment.
Paimon gets the feeling that you're just trying to get them off your back. But never mind that. When did you get back? Were you waiting here the whole time?
No,
Poi lo
I just
capiremo.
returned
Andiamoci.
after going out for a while. I did some investigating yesterday regarding the name Vache.
Wait, so you didn't sleep at all?
How could I after having such critical new evidence appear?
Guess Paimon wasn't speaking for everyone just now, huh?
Unfortunately, this name seems to have been wiped from existence. It doesn't seem to have a match anywhere.
Di nuovo queste persone che vengono cancellate.
Investigation from this angle. But that does prove that this Vache person is a key witness in the incident.
Does that mean we're too late, though?
No. There is one ray of hope. One place, and that is the archives kept by Chief Justice Neuvillette. A place where detailed files on all the cases in recent years are kept. If the Oceanette you met is one of the young women who went missing recently, we should be able to find some related information there.
So Neuvillette maintains an archive of case files? Whew. Guess that's the hard-working Chief Justice for you. In that case, let's go talk to him, shall we? Aren't you coming along, Navia? Did you get tired?
No, it's nothing. Let's go see the Honorable Chief Justice.
Ok. Andiamo da Neuvillette.
The palais is right up ahead. Come on.
Halt! Please state your business here. The Chief Justice is presently occupied with official matters.
Huh. This place does look pretty heavily guarded. Guess that proves that Neuvillette's files are really secure.
Hey, don't you recognize us?
Huh? Who are you? Just to be clear, I don't care who you are or who you might be related to. Our rules make no exceptions.
See? They've got great discipline, too.
Yep. Paimon can tell.
If you're here just to crack jokes, I can point you towards the exit. Unlike some, we're busy, so please leave if you don't have a reason to be here.
No. What I meant to say is, shouldn't you remember us from a few days ago? We were at the trial of the great magician Linny.
Oh, yes, I remember. I read about it in the Steambird. You must be Linny's attorneys. It's all coming back to me now.
We're here today to report and archive some information on a follow-up case.
Huh. Is that even a thing?
Of course. Don't worry. We're here on official business. You can trust us.
All right then, I'll let you through. The Chief Justice is just inside.
Thanks so much.
Please come in.
Bellissimo. Proprio bello, Neuvillette.
Sorry to barge in, Monsieur Neuvillette. We only lied to get in because we didn't know any other way.
It's all right. Please let me know how I may be of assistance to you.
So you're not mad at us?
We're looking for a man called Vache. He may have been an eyewitness in the serial disappearances case. If we can find him, we may be able to unearth some key information on the case.
Ah, I see. In that case, please wait here a moment while I browse through the files.
that Neuvillette would be so easy to talk to.
Unfortunately, I'm quite certain that no one by the name of Vacher has been involved in any case, criminal or civil, in the past several years. There are no records of him either in the files or in my memory.
Traveler, what if it was really just a dream?
Is that so? All right then. Thank you so much, Monsieur Neuvillette. We'll take our leave now.
Ahem. Miss Navia, I can understand how you feel. Your father, Callus, was a truly exceptional man. We deeply regret his passing.
And what are you trying to say, Monsieur Neuvillette?
Era
Are
innocente?
you trying to console me? Extend your sympathy? Or just express some tendril of regret? No. You are not trying to do any of that. I can hear it in your voice. There's no emotion behind your words. You only said those things because you felt like you should.
Come mai?
It's just like last time. After my father took his place in the duelist ring, I pushed through the guards to talk to you as a last resort. You even told me then that you thought there was something fishy with the case, yet you still allowed the duel to go ahead. In your eyes, the value of a human life is nothing compared to those cold laws you hold so dear. If you truly regret my father's death, then why didn't you call a stop to the duel? Why didn't you give me the power to stop him from throwing his life away? Why did you just let him die, despised and hated by all? Everything was hanging on a thread at that moment. Just the tiniest effort could have changed everything. There are still so many things I never got to tell him. So many questions he still owes me answers to. If you really have no heart, then just look me in the eyes. I, Navia, will show you the true meaning of regret.
I'm sorry, Miss Navia.
You and my father are truly alike. You keep all kinds of things in your heart and never say a word to anyone. It's not so much that you can't feel, but that you would never express anything. Oh well. In any case, everyone already knows full well the apathy of the Chief Justice. My apologies for taking my emotions out on you, Monsieur Chief Justice. Let's go, Traveler and Paimon.
Navia, are you okay?
I'm fine. Rain. It's raining.
Amore mio.
Wasn't it still sunny when we went into the building? And there shouldn't be any active trials today. How strange.
Now that I think of it, on the day my father was convicted of murder, it was also raining.
Ah, quindi si dispiace, Neuvillette, piove.
What is it? Did you think of something?
Era all'esterno, e quindi che vuol dire?
Yeah, he was outside. It was uncovered and the rain could fall there. Why? Do you think the rain could have affected the crime scene? That thought has occurred to us before. We've even expanded the search area to try to account for that, but didn't find anything of value. Oh? Wait. You don't mean...
Ok.
So you're saying that the true murderer could have been turned into water and then got washed away with the rain? Yeah. And if that's what had happened, then no one would have believed your dad, even if he explained what he saw to the authorities.
I really
E
think
perché l'omicida dovrebbe tramutarsi in acqua? Non ha senso.
How did I not connect the dots earlier? All right, let's go to Poisson. With this new lead
Poisson.
in mind, we'll get to the bottom of my father's case for sure.
Bene.
We're gonna make progress for sure this time.
Do you want to go with me now? Or do you want to head over by yourself later?
E andiamo.
Great, let's go then.
Siamo qua. Apposta. Per indagare su qualcosa. In realtà non volevamo indagare, ma noi siamo troppo buoni. Vediamo. Ah, wow. No, bellissimo questo uccello. Ma possiamo... Questi due uccelli, ma sono... Li possiamo prendere? Ce l'ho la... Eccola. No, se ne sono andati. Vabbè, allora, c'è un Hydroculus da qualche parte qua. Qua sotto. Sotto ancora. Qui. Allora, qui sotto. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh. No, fermi. No, come si fa? Wow, abbiamo preso una procellaria cresta piatta. Ho preso uno dei nuovi gabbiani di Sumeru. Al... come si chiama? Aspetta, ci siamo fatti un sacco male. Curiamoci un attimo. Pocomina, come ce l'ho buildata? Ok. Non fa proprio il suo lavoro, però. Vabbè. Allora. Allora, c'è un Hydroculus qui sopra. E dice che per l'appunto non è sotterraneo, quindi dovrà essere un Hydroculus. Si vede. È qui sopra. Lo abbiamo appena. Eccolo. Eccolo qua. Allora. Hydroculus è qui sopra. Come possiamo arrivarci? Ci possiamo arrivare da qua. Sono molto belli questi nuovi uccelli. Di qua. Secondo me così ci arriviamo. E voilà. No? No, vi prego. Ah, ok. Porta solo in superficie, va bene. Perché se portava l'Hydroculus, guarda. Ok. Della missione, a meno che punto della missione eccolo. Ah, bisogna immergersi, immergiamoci. Sotto qui sotto che cosa succede? Ah. Stiamo un po' divagando, però se ci porta da qualche parte di carino. Oh no, ci riporta indietro. No, no. Oh. Torniamo indietro, vai. Potrebbero essere questi dei materiali che servono. No, entra proprio no. Ok. Dobbiamo andare qua su. E dobbiamo andare qua su. Giusto?
Whoa! What a huge ship! Why would a ship be anchored at a place like this?
There's no need to be so surprised. While it may look like a ship, it's actually Spina di Rosula's headquarters. My father was the one who asked for it to be built like this. Perhaps our taste in exterior design is the only thing we occasionally had in common. A gigantic and glamorous ship embodies discovery, opportunity, ambition, and conquest. It symbolizes Spina di Rosula's bright and limitless future.
And Paimon thought you were bluffing when you said Spina di Rosula had a glorious past. Paimon was confused why a group with such a history would live in the sewers. But now that Paimon has seen this ship for herself, she's been convinced.
Well, Poisson is where Spina di Rosula began, after all. It's our main base, our home.
Allora, se clicchi sulle missioni, ti dovrebbe dare anche la location. Non c'è nessuna che ti dice Fontaine. E allora vuol dire che non l'hai cominciata. Veramente. Eccolo lì. Allora, sono io che non prendo i punti giusti. Oh, com'è che si fa? Ah, ok. Seguiamo la strada. Qua, di qua, di qua. Salve. Eccoci. Prima di cominciare, avevo visto una cosa di mio interesse. Posso rubarvi l'Hydroculus? Grazie. Tra l'altro, quanti Hydroculus abbiamo? C'è un gattino. Allora, Hydroculus 7. Questo è un gatto normale, quindi non serve catturarselo. Catturarlo.
Apologies for the wait, demoiselle, and our most important partners. You said before that you still had some business at the court. What brings you back to Poisson so quickly?
About that. It's because my partner here reminded me of something really important. You see, what if my father's case had something to do with water from the primordial sea? You still remember, right, Malus? On that night, it was raining?
Yes, the case was quite similar to that of Mr. Linney's.
Sì,
Both were what you'd call
ne ho prese solo 2 di
impossible
missioni
murders.
di Fontaine.
Could you tell us a bit more about what happened before?
Finisco questa scena e ti dico.
Yeah, of course. Many years ago, something called synth began to gain popularity in Poisson. At a glance, it was a kind of drink that could excite your mood and produce many pleasant hallucinations.
Wait! Didn't that guard guy who turned into water also mention that the primordial water could be used to produce some kind of potion?
Carina questa cosa dell'acqua
Yes,
comunque.
he did. Considering what we know now,
Una
it's
specie di
almost certain that
droga.
synth was created
E loro
using
fanno
water from
traffico
the
di
primordial sea.
droga. E poi c'è
If you
anche il
drink synth for an
traffico
executive amount of
illegale
time,
di
you'll suffer many
mech.
side effects, such as losing the ability to focus or control your emotions. And if you were to stop drinking it completely, you'll experience flashes of paranoia and anxiety while lacking energy to do anything. It's an extremely dangerous substance. As he
Sta
oversaw
diventando
Poisson,
un
my father was
gioco
compelled to put a stop
fantasy
to synth
sempre
abuse
più
and called for a
allacciato
complete
alla
ban of it.
realtà.
Boss's uncompromising attitude incurred the synth vendor's wrath, but no matter how much they threatened or bribed him, he refused to yield. Not only that, Boss became determined to find the mastermind behind the synth operation and put an end to the problem once and for all.
Yes, but the enemy was very cunning. So he could never get anything out of the dealers, all of whom only sold the stuff and weren't privy to the rest of the operation. Recognizing that, my father decided to contact the dealers in secret and cultivate personal relationships with them. Finally, he was able to convince someone to become his informant. The man's name was Jacques. He felt greatly ashamed about his work after seeing many families destroyed by synth abuse. That night, my father hosted a banquet at his countryside estate. He planned to meet up and exchange information with Jacques over some food. But then, we heard 2 gunshots from the courtyard. We raced to the scene and found my father, still holding a gun, and Jacques, who was already dead on the ground.
Huh? How did that happen? Aren't they on the same side?
Sounds just like Lenny's case, doesn't it? In both cases, the culprit seemed obvious, but neither appeared to have any motive at all. Looking back on it, though, I now believe the most important clue was something we all overlooked at the time. There were pieces of clothing left at the scene. Precisely. It's all thanks to you that I made the connection now. Back then, we all just thought they were some costumes that Jacques used to disguise himself at the banquet. But, considering it now, it's almost certain that they belong to a third person at the scene. With one extra person, we'll also need to reconsider why the 2 shots were fired. You're right. We still don't know what happened. But my intuition tells me that we're on the right track to figuring it all out. I'm finally headed towards the truth.
Jacques was an empathetic man who was infinitely remorseful for his past actions. It's unlikely that he turned on Boss with 0 warning. I think this third person is probably the key to the full truth. On that note, however, even though this will not please you, demoiselle, as your and your father's butler, I must still offer a word of warning. Our opponent is insidious and cruel. They are extremely difficult to deal with, and Boss has already lost his life trying to bring them to justice. Even though Spina de Rosula has lost most of its former glory, Poisson has welcomed a new time of peace,
Poisson.
and we have been allowed to live out our lives.
Poisson è
There's no
pesce
need to
in
follow your
francese.
father's path. It would be both wise and in line with Boss's wishes to step back and give up on the case.
If that's indeed what he wished for, then he should have told me that himself. Was I not the closest person to him? And yet, I was the one most kept in the dark. What was the point of him dying without sharing any of the secrets he knew? Did he manage to protect anything in the end? Synth is still here. Callus the Unfaithful is still his epithet. And Spina di Rosula is barely getting by. Nothing has changed. Did he think I'd just accept his meaningless death and live out my life just as meaninglessly? I've never accepted that, ever. Not since that day, and certainly not now. I want to find out the real answer for everyone's sake. For the missing girls, for the victims, and for myself.
Navia.
This is indeed the best moment to act. Your partner appears to be quite reliable, and more importantly, demoiselle, I think you're also ready to
Tra
take this
l'altro,
on.
il Traveler chiede sempre una ricompensa. Questa volta non ha parlato proprio di ricompense.
In fact, even before that banquet, Boss already knew of the connection
Quando
between
deve
Synth and
fare
serious
delle missioni per gli altri, chiede
But
sempre la
what drove all
ricompensa.
the tensions to the boiling point was the revelation that you, demoiselle, had been selected as the next target to disappear.
What?
E che l'ho detto.
Boss also didn't tell you that he had been diagnosed with a rare illness. The doctors
Silente
told him
vibes.
that he had no more than 5 years left to live.
Sicuramente un
Serial
Horcrux.
disappearances case caused him great anxiety.
Il padre gli era stato diagnosticato un grave male incurabile, 5 anni. Non le ha detto niente, se n'è andato, magari in combutta proprio con la persona che lo ha ammazzato. Cioè, l'abbiamo già visto sto film.
One final intimidation tactic before his death. He claimed to have already gotten his hands on some key incriminating evidence for the other side, and even told some members of Spina di Rosula about the details. But as long as you remained safe, he would not share the evidence with the public.
Sì, peccato che ora la vogliono uccidere. Cioè,
He and all those he told would immediately expose all they knew about Synth and the disappeared victims.
Right. So nobody would be able to get off scot-free.
As we've seen, Boss's tactic has worked. Even though Boss has been gone for a long time, the other side has not tried to take Demoiselle's life.
fino
No,
adesso.
I don't believe it. He never appeared to look sick to me.
No father wants their daughter to see them weak and haggard.
È la stessa storia del padre di Deia.
Him dying in a duel and suffering lasting dishonor as the
È morto da solo, senza dire alla figlia esattamente che cosa era successo.
So he chose to die in silence. So
Per
that he could
proteggerla.
protect me.
I'm afraid you're not understanding this correctly, demoiselle. What Boss wanted to hand to you was not a parasol, but a sword. If Boss's spirit could hear you telling me that you want to find the answer for the sake of everyone involved, I'm sure he'd be extremely proud.
That fool. Couldn't he have just given it to me straight? No. He might have set up everything precisely because he never thought I'd be able to understand him. Is that the amount of confidence he had in me? And what if I was never able to make it to where I am now? Yeah. I suppose that's true. With the way he'd set things up, if I had wanted, I could have just lived out my life without a care in the world. But thankfully, he rarely talked to me about complex matters, and thus understood little of me as a person. In this case, he really didn't need to give me an easy way out. Malus, what was the key evidence that he shared with you?
It's the location where synth is produced. Essentially, it's the enemy's headquarters. When he was threatening the enemy, Boss didn't share the specifics of the incriminating evidence he found. But if you want to use it against the enemy, you'll still have to take several things into consideration.
Why? If we know where the place is, can't we just go storming in?
You mustn't forget that we're fighting against a mysterious and dangerous organization that's been in operation for decades.
Harbinger.
There's no telling what might be lying in wait at their headquarters.
Giusto.
We also have no idea what kind of evidence we may be able to find inside,
Mm,
nor what people we may be able to capture.
Arlecchino.
But a single visit to their headquarters would be tantamount to a formal declaration of war. The worst case would be that we leave empty-handed, but also open ourselves up to full retaliation.
Then, in that case, why not work with the Fontaine authorities?
Well, you saw one of them dissolve during Mr. Linney's case. We have no idea just how thoroughly they may have been infiltrated.
Huh. That's true. Seems my father really had no choice. But things are different now. It should be a lot easier to prove the other side's guilt, now that we've connected Synth with the disappearances case.
You sound like you've put a lot of thought into this, Maloose.
I am the butler, after all. I live but to serve the boss and Demoiselle's will. I've always been willing to take on any kind of risk for your sake. But considering my relative lack of ability, I've spent my time keeping secrets, performing basic investigations, and waiting for the right time to come.
Thank you for all of that, Maloose. Have you discovered anything new in the past few years?
Let me think. One conclusion I came to was that the enemy must be quite familiar with Spina di Rosula, or at least have an informant planted here. When I announced orders to the organization's members on Demoiselle's behalf, I used to deliberately keep a few people in the dark and observe the reactions of the synth vendors. If the vendors didn't change their plans, then the individuals informed of our orders must be innocent. If the vendors packed up and fled, however, then someone must have given them the news. After several rounds of testing and investigative tracing, I've narrowed the suspect list down to 3 people. The first is Florent, Spina di Rosula's senior advisor.
Huh? Florent?
Yes, surprising, isn't it? He was one of the people Boss trusted the most, which also means that he was someone who understood Boss really well. Thanks to his position within Boss's innermost circle, he always knew our upcoming plans and could thus avoid capture this whole time. There's someone else like him too. Marcel, the head of Confrérie
Ah,
of
ecco,
Cabrières.
Marcel.
Uncle Marcel.
It's a guild in Poisson. Boss helped it to grow to its current size and prominence. In the beginning, they were only reselling some daily goods, but now they're one of the richest guilds around, with a lot of business connections in the city.
So, they're like a sister organization of Spina di Rosula?
Yes, you can say that. When we were fighting against the synth dealers, they provided us with plenty of support. It's a bit difficult to imagine someone using their own money to hunt down themselves.
The final suspect is Thierry, the man responsible for coordinating information between Spina di Rosula and the guards. Although the guards mostly leave us to our own devices, there are still many activities we have to report to the local authorities. Since Thierry is always in the know about our current activities, he could theoretically always plan one step ahead.
I see. These are all people who I communicate with quite regularly. To think that the enemy we've been fighting against has been right next to me all along, among those I trust the most. It's almost too hard to believe.
If you want to investigate them, please take every precaution to not alert the quarry. Judging from our experience, the enemy is extremely cautious.
Of course. And thank you, Malus. You've provided us with a lot of great information.
You're too kind, my lady. I'm just doing my duty. And before I forget, proving Boss's innocence would also mean clearing him of blame in Jacques' death. After that incident, Jacques' wife and daughter were taken into the Spina's care. They still live in Poisson today. If it might help, you could also pay them a visit. I can make the necessary arrangements.
Necessary.
Thank you so much, Malus. You really are the best.
A new case awaits, my dear partner. I hope we can work together to uncover the truth and end this case once and for all.
3 anni fa, in una notte piovosa, gli ospiti del banchetto sentirono 2 colpi di arma da fuoco fuori dalla casa. Quando arrivarono sulla scena, Callas impugnava una pistola e Jacques era stato ucciso. Basandosi sulle indagini svolte in quel momento, era impossibile che qualcun altro avesse compiuto il misfatto e fosse poi scappato. Di conseguenza, Callas fu giudicato colpevole. Top. Ok. Ah, anche qui abbiamo un dossier. Visitiamo la famiglia di Jacques. Ma quindi questa è veramente la capitolo IV, atto 2. Sì, sì, proprio missione dell'Archon. Allora, di Fontaine io ho Dove giunge la marea. Dove giunge la marea, che dice: un abitante di Fontaine molto entusiasta ti invita a esplorare le rovine sott'acqua. Eccolo qua. Questo è il palombaro, si chiama Dove giunge la marea. Ed è anche una missione strana, vediamo se riesco a filtrarla. Regione della corte di Fontaine. Fontaine. Ne ho un'altra io, bellissimo, alla corte di Fontaine, Passage Vasari. Va bene. A me dice che mi dà 40 primogems. Allora, continuiamo. Oh, ho colpito un gatto.
It is settled then. Please excuse me and enjoy your conversation at your leisure.
Thank you for arranging everything for us, Malus.
Excuse me, miss. Do you need anything from us?
Coralie. Adele.
Oh,
Hey, Navia's all quiet. This isn't like her at all.
I'm sorry that I only came to visit after all this time. After what happened, I didn't know how I was supposed to face the two of you.
Ah, if it's about that, there's no need to apologize. After my husband died, Spina di Rosula sent us a lot of mora and support. I understood your guilt and apology to be genuine.
Erano tutti soldi.
Aren't all of those things nothing compared to the loss of Jacques?
No, ci vanno bene I soldi.
I can understand the kind of pain that comes with losing a father so needlessly.
You don't understand at all.
I didn't know how to face you, because I didn't know what I could possibly bring as a consolation gift.
Ha detto
I
che
know
gli sono
only
bastati
the full
soldi già.
truth could bring closure to you, and to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I appreciate the sentiment, but you don't have to carry all that guilt. On the matter regarding my husband, my daughter and I have more or less found our answer already.
Would you mind sharing it with me? I really can't believe that my father could ever bring himself to shoot Jacques.
I always knew that my husband's money was earned through others' suffering. He told me countless times that if he could turn back the clock, he would never go into the synth business again. He had many regrets, and felt that he took the idea of providing for his family too literally. For the longest time, he thought Mora was everything. So when Mr. Callis came to him with a proposal, he accepted it almost immediately. He tried to be as careful as he could, but even so, he was still found out by the higher-ups.
They found out about his betrayal?
Papa didn't say that exactly, but Papa did tell me that I should never be ungrateful.
Before he left that day, he told me that he had no choice. It was only later that I realized it was his final farewell to the two of us.
Ok.
I don't know that for sure, but you could say that's the conclusion I eventually came to.
Quindi già parlare con la sua famiglia ha scagionato il padre.
Callis had always taken great care of us, both when he was still alive and after he passed away. Even if he fired the shot that killed my husband, it was likely in self-defense. It is impossible for me to hate him for what he had done.
But Mama,
Vabbè.
why is Papa still the bad guy if he did the right thing? Papa always wanted to be a good man, so why did he have to do a bad thing in the end?
Well, things aren't always as they seem. You still feel like your papa was a good man, right?
Yeah, Papa was a really good man. The best in the whole world.
Then you should hold on to that. If a good man had to do a bad thing, then he must have had his reasons. Regardless of whether he left you a parasol or a sword. He must have done so to give you a better life.
Oh,
Oh, sempliciotta Navia.
Thank you for everything you've told me. I will definitely find the truth. The current state of things is not something I'm willing to just sit back and accept.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to hear this from you. Even though your personality is quite different from your father's, your determination when you speak is really similar.
You really think so? That's the first time anyone said that to me.
La famiglia di Jacques crede che l'ordine di uccidere Callas l'avesse messo in seria difficoltà. Callas ha agito per autodifesa o si nasconde altro dietro l'incidente. Vediamo un po' se si nasconde altro. Sempre qui dobbiamo stare. E dobbiamo andare dall'altra parte.
are you okay, Navia?
Beh, ti senti meglio, Navia, no?
Fine. Don't worry.
Dai.
Let's investigate the 3 suspects next. Laurent should be near.
Greetings, boss. How may I be of assistance today?
I'm sure you've heard about what happened at the Opera House. Someone got turned into water right in front of us.
Yeah, I've heard. With something that dramatic, I'm sure journalists will milk it for all it's worth. And it'll be all the talk for the next several weeks.
It also reminded me, on the day that the incident happened with my father, it was raining outside, and we found some clothes left at the scene. After my partner here put the dots together for me, I feel like we should try to reopen his case. Can you do me a favor and try to recall what happened that night?
Let me think. Mr. Callis was feeling pretty upbeat that day. So he was drinking and bantering away with us at the table. After that, he told us that he wanted to go get some fresh air. So we let him go without thinking much of it. Who knew that we would hear 2 gunshots ring out right after? My first reaction was that Mr. Callis's life was in danger. So I grabbed my holster and made a mad dash toward the scene. But when I got there, it was already too late. Mr. Callis was standing over a dead body with a gun in his hands. All we could do was look back and forth at each other, not knowing what to say.
So you also remember 2 gunshots then?
Indeed. The guard said that the first shot didn't hit anyone, while the second killed Jacques. But I've never really bought that explanation. Reason being, Mr. Callis had left his gun on the table. I even made sure to confirm that before running to the scene. But according to the guards, that doesn't mean he couldn't have had other guns on his person. About the clothes left at the scene that you mentioned. Do you think there was a third person there who was turned into water?
Lui stava cercando di sparare alla persona che si è tramutata in acqua. La persona che si è tramutata in acqua e ha colpito Callas, trapassando la persona che...
At least from our perspective, my father had no reason to kill. So he would also have no reason to bring an extra gun with him.
No, questo infatti...
The gun he was holding probably belonged to Jacques, or a third person on the scene.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying Mr. Callis ended up with the gun because he seized it from one of the other guys? But hold on. If that's what had happened, then why didn't he share the truth with any of us? He didn't even want to face the Oratrice machine, and chose instead to prove his honor in a duel.
Ah, quindi se non usi l'oratrice, fai il duello. Sono due cose separate.
About that, Malus told me a thing or two. So, I think I can understand why he committed to the duel. I'll tell you everything, once the whole truth has been revealed.
Sì, dicelo anche a noi perché non abbiamo capito niente.
Then, I'll leave Mr. Callis's honor in your hands, boss. And if I may just say one more thing. The whole Callis the Unfaithful epithet has been a thorn in my side since the day it was invented. Many people have laughed at me for still calling him Mr. Callis, even after so many years have passed. But it was Mr. Callis's trust that allowed me to rise through the ranks of Spina di Rosula and live the life I lead today. No matter what others might say, he'll always be the man I respect the most. And he'll always be my boss.
Don't worry. I will definitely find the truth. You and all our other comrades at the Spina deserve to know the truth as well.
Laurent, il consulente della Spina di Rosula, ha affermato di essere molto grato a Callas per la sua gentilezza. Anche lui era presente al banchetto nel giorno del delitto e può provare che Callas non aveva portato con sé la pistola quando è uscito. Ok. Vabbè, comunque non vuol dire che la pistola, insomma, che non ci fosse un'altra pistola. Questa è un po' una cosa... cosa che lascia il tempo che trovo, però vabbè. Parliamo direttamente con Thierry, la guardia.
Hey, Thierry, it's me.
Oh, now, what brings you here, Miss Navia? I've heard that you made quite the name for yourself at the Opera House.
Oh, so you've got news of that already.
Oh, okay. Hey,
Ci sta
I'm
provando.
also a member of the guards, you know. The way you make it sound, people would think I was sent off to Poisson because I had done something wrong.
Are you sure there isn't a little bit of truth in that? Under normal circumstances, shouldn't you have been called back to the city already?
I mean, where I work is really up to me. Let's just say I enjoy the ambiance of Poisson. Callis did a fantastic job running the town, building Spina di Rosula from the ground up and clearing many obstructions in my way. It would be next to impossible for me to find a similarly easy but high-paying job in the city. Anyway, enough chit-chat. Are these two friends of yours? You, here for some formal business?
Yes. These two are my
Poisson
partners.
e pescare.
What happened at the Opera House made
E
us
pesce.
realize that Lenny's case and my father's may be related. We're trying to reinvestigate the details of my father's old case.
Ah, I get it. You think there
E
might
apri
be
quel
more to the
caso.
case now that we know people can be dissolved into water, right? I was also flabbergasted when I first heard of it. If you want to go through the original files from your father's case, I can help you look for them.
That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Actually, I have another question. Do you have the authority to dispatch Gardamex?
Of course. Without them, I couldn't possibly handle Poisson on my own. Why do you ask? We definitely can't use them to forcefully get more evidence for your father's case.
Well, you see, just recently, we were attacked by a horde of unnumbered Gardamex in the city.
Ma sappiamo già che sono illegali.
So, if you hypothetically wanted to do something against me, all you would need to do is get rid of the mecha serial numbers and send them after me.
Then you think too highly of my abilities. Dispatching mecha is very different from controlling them. If I had to make an analogy, when you order a dish, the chef will make it for you. You can ask the chef to cook, but not to massage your shoulders or carry your baggage. If you try to make unreasonable demands, the chef would just think you're out of your mind and ignore you completely. The same goes for me and my Gardamex. Removing a serial number is also not as easy as you might think. There are a lot of complex steps to it, and it's almost impossible to keep it a secret. So I can promise you, those mecha were definitely private units. They're certainly not cheap. So, whoever their owner is must be super rich, powerful, or both. Now that you mention it, though, being in the synth business would definitely be profitable enough to afford this.
Oh, then you're officially in the clear, Thierry.
Oh, well, thank you for the vote of confidence, Navia. Jokes aside, I'd like to wish you all the best with your investigation. I'll be staying in the city for a little while, so just come find me if you need any support from the guards.
Thierry è responsabile dei contatti ufficiali fra la spina di Rosula e la Guard. Secondo lui, solo coloro abbastanza ricchi da poter possedere privatamente un gran numero di mechard. No, vabbè, abbiamo capito. Diciamo, cerchiamo qualcuno di molto ricco.
Hello, how may I help you? I'm here to see Marcel. Could you please let him know? You can just say Navia's looking for him. Sure, I will let him know right away.
Navia, hello. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm not as young as I used to be, so my legs are giving out a bit.
Oh, it's all right, Uncle Marcel. There's no need to stress. I just wanted to talk to you briefly about what happened in the Opera House. I'm sure you saw everything too, right?
Yes, I've never seen anything so strange.
Oh, you were at the Opera House too?
That's right. I went there with Navia to see the magic show. Who knew it would turn into a whole murder mystery? I also witnessed your marvelous sleuthing work. Quite impressive. To beat the Hydro Archon at her own game on her own turf, I can already imagine everyone in Fontaine discussing your exploits over a few glasses of wine.
Oh, Paimon doesn't want to become the talk of drunkards.
Apologies. It's just how Fontaine is as a nation. Everyone loves drama and theatrics.
Uncle Marcel, you've also noticed that other thing, right? The fact that humans can dissolve in water?
Yes, I was reminded of your father's case right away.
Ah,
You are investigating now.
in mente anche lui, quindi.
I still don't have much solid proof, but I can sense that the other side has already begun to act.
Oh, and what makes you say that?
We were attacked on Araneus by some unnumbered Gardamex. And there was also an attempt to get me to drink water from the primordial sea. If not for the vigilance of my partner, I probably wouldn't even be here talking to you right now.
Oh, you're giving us too much credit. Wasn't it you who protected us?
Alas, it seems things are heating up again. The peace that Callus sought so dearly will soon become a thing of the past. But rest assured, Navia, Poisson will always remain a safe haven for you. If you're scared, you can always return there. If anyone dares to lay their hands on you there, the Confrérie of Cabrières will use its funds to the last Mora to bring them to justice.
Thank you, Uncle Marcel. But I don't intend to go into hiding. I'm going to strike while the iron's hot. Do you have any new thoughts on my father's case?
About that. Sorry, my age is catching up with me, so it'll take me a while to recall my memory.
Lui non me la conta giusta.
The Confrérie was responsible for that banquet, so I was out and about the whole time making sure things were running smoothly. I didn't even have the time to drink with the guests. Then I heard the sound of a gunshot, and the rest was history.
Oh, it's okay. No need to push yourself. We'll ask around some more. See if there are any valuable clues elsewhere.
Sounds good. Just let me know if you ever need Mora.
Ah, così. Chiamami se hai bisogno di
All my
soldi.
wealth comes from Callus's patronage and support. I'll spend however much it takes to clear his name.
Allora, prima di tutto devi sistemare l'insegna perché non si capisce niente di quello che c'è scritto. Marcel è il capo della congrega di Cabrières, nonché l'organizzazione del banchetto anni fa. La congrega e la spina di Rosula hanno sempre mantenuto una stretta relazione lavorativa. Sebbene i suoi ricordi degli eventi siano piuttosto confusi, è disposto a difendere Navia. Ok. Rivediamo l'indizio. Bellissima questa cosa qui. E niente. Noi quindi dobbiamo saltare qua su. Dobbiamo saltare qua su. Come mai non mi fai saltare? Allora, da questa parte c'è la quest.
We've talked to all three suspects, purely based on their conversations with me.
None of them sounded particularly suspicious.
L'ultimo.
I suppose that's to be expected, though. If a single conversation's all that's needed to find them out, then my father wouldn't have needed to investigate the case for so many
Infatti,
years.
poi sembrano tanto
Anyway,
tutti i suoi
even
amici.
though we didn't make a breakthrough, let's still compile what we were able to find.
But where should we start? Ah, you're right! Flora mentioned that Callus probably only ended up with the gun because of circumstance. That makes sense.
According to Jacques' family members, he already told them that he had been discovered, and that he had no choice before he left home that day. If I had to guess, he probably received an order from the synth boss to kill my father. Had he refused, he and his family's lives would have been forfeit.
So, Jacques fired the first shot?
Oh? And why is
Quello
that?
è quello che pensi tu.
Ooh, that's a good point. Jacques probably already knew that he was just being used as a tool for murder. And once he had completed his mission, he'd be of no more use to his boss.
Huh. So, what would make more sense from his perspective would be to turn his back on the Order and seek protection from my father. Makes sense. But without evidence, that's still just a theory. Besides Jock, the attack from the Gardamex has been bothering me quite a bit as well. It's obvious that our enemy has become more antsy after the secret of the primordial seawater was revealed.
Do you think he knew, even then, that we'd follow this lead to the end?
Given everything that's happened since, it's quite possible. But who among the 3 suspects would have the ability to control privately owned Gardamex?
L'ultimo, Marcel.
Uncle Marcel? My father did really trust him. And they worked together on a large number of projects.
Quello che parla sempre di soldi, no, sai?
And with funds from the Confrérie, he could also afford a large number of Gardamex. Still really hard for me to imagine, though. After all, Uncle Marcel has been around since I was just a child.
Vuol dire?
Also, wouldn't this mean he has been spending a whole lot of mora and energy to fight his own synth business?
Non è così proprio, perché potrebbe averlo preso lui il commercio del synth. Cioè, Bacco... Ah, proprio così, quindi gli dobbiamo dire tutti i nomi, ok.
Thierry, you say? Huh. It is possible that he's figured out a way to convert the Gardamex for personal use. But I didn't feel like he was lying when he was talking to us about the mecha. I also don't think he'd be able to keep that kind of tampering under wraps.
Yeah, had he actually tampered with the mecha, we'd be able to prove it with a simple check of the guard's inventory. If the mecha were taken from the guards, it should be pretty easy to find out when and how that happened.
Lui le prova tutte. Andiamo di Florent.
It is true that he was closest to my father, and thus had the best chance of learning about his dealings with Jacques. But as Spina di Rosula's advisor, his work mostly deals with personnel and security, so he shouldn't have much means when it comes to finances.
So you're saying he's too broke to afford a mecha army?
Sì, ma lui proprio non è...
Exactly. He can't. And even if he could, I don't think he would be able to dispatch a whole group so quickly.
No, Florent non è.
Who could it be?
Credo, oh mio Dio. Devo abbassare un po' il volume? Allora. Non ottenente. Ok. Allora no, per me è Marcel. Cioè, l'avevamo già detto.
You know, if you think everything through,
Grazie.
Uncle Marcel is indeed the most suspicious of them all.
Grazie.
Could we be missing other suspects? Malus didn't know about the people turning into water thing when he narrowed it down to these 3, did he?
Malus has always been very reliable, and his judgment of others' trustworthiness has been fair and well considered. When he laid out his case for the 3, the rationale he gave me made a lot of sense as well. The suspect is knowledgeable about the Spina's internal affairs, has the means to dispatch Mecha to assassinate us, and possesses significant intellect and foresight. Even if I don't want to believe it, I'm starting to see how things could all tie back to Uncle Marcel.
Well, we still have another trump card on top of all the theorizing and speculating.
Yes, Malus did say that charging straight in there would be extremely risky. But we don't have any other options right now.
Almeno ci sarà da
Far more
combattere.
solid proof before we can hope to go charging in on our enemy.
Navia,
Vai.
here you are. Oh, I've been looking for you.
Huh? Aren't you the guy from the guards? Did something happen?
Yeah. News came from Irenaeus just after you left. We've got another trial on our hands.
Wasn't that place built specifically for holding trials? What's so newsworthy about this one?
I know. But they said the person they're putting on trial is a Fatui harbinger called Tartaglia.
Tartaglia si è messo nei guai.
What? Is that someone you know?
Yeah, we know him. Maybe even a little too well.
Well,
Sì, non l'avrà fatto
he's been
apposta per
accused of being the true
battere il
culprit behind the
concurrente.
serial disappearances case. It's absurd, don't you think?
Wait, how? None of our investigations have had anything to do with him.
That's what I thought was strange about it, so I came to tell you the news right away. If the charge against him stands, then it'll be next to impossible to get the guards to support any of our planned investigations.
Right, because they'll think they've already found the culprit.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot harder then to clear Mr. Callus's name.
I understand. Well, partner, what do you think we should do? We still haven't found any conclusive evidence.
Split.
Huh? Split up? What do you mean?
Sì, dai, per favore,
Just as expected of my partner.
combattiamo.
This is a trial about the serial disappearances case. The culprit's attention will be focused on Irenaeus, leaving his home base wide open. You're right. This is our best opportunity. All right then, let's do this. I'll stall them at the Opera House and charge Marcel as the true culprit. I won't have any chance of making that charge stick, though, unless we find more evidence. It'll be up to you to make it back in time and hand the decisive evidence to me.
Bene. Ce la facciamo. Per
We'll
me.
help you, just like you helped us in Linny's trial.
Demoiselle, please allow us to accompany you.
I'm ready.
Ovviamente loro.
Ah, Malou, Silver, when did you two get here?
Siamo sempre stati qui.
We heard that you'll be leaving Poisson and figured that you might require It's our hope that
La stalkano.
your confidence will be bolstered with the two of us by your side.
Thank you so much. Then, let's make haste for Irenaeus. Paimon, Traveler, I'll see you at the Opera House.
See you then!
Combinando le informazioni relative ai Mechard e i risultati dell'indagine finora, si può concludere che solo una persona può possedere un gran numero di Mechagard e gestire il business del Synth senza lasciare tracce. Questa persona non è altri che Marcel. E fin qui siamo tutti d'accordo.
Now that Navia has set out for Irenaeus, we should also get going.
Ok.
The location.
Abbiamo quasi terminato resina. Andiamo. Allora, ci siamo teletrasportati qua. Vabbè, approfittiamo. Magari riusciamo a sbloccare questo teleport che è qui nell'acqua, immagino. Trova l'entrata del quartiere generale.
The synth production base is underwater.
Underwater, va bene.
Let's go and try to find the entrance.
Ci sta. Allora vorrei prendere il net o comunque il traveler perché insomma sono carini. Di gioco, aspetta. Energie sottomarine, pneumosia. La maggior parte dei personaggi di Fontaine possiede uno specifico attributo archee e può pertanto usare i suoi attacchi per innescare le energie. Ok. Ah, non gli possiamo fare niente, invece con lui... Attacchiamo, giusto? Ok, teleport. Siamo già arrivati?
Finally found it. Huh. So this is the entrance protection base. Ah, you're right. An important place like this is bound to have a ton of protective measures and mechanisms. Navia's probably arguing up a storm right now to stall for us.
It would appear that I must repeat my question again, Mr. Tartaglia. Do you accept the charge that you are the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case?
To be perfectly honest, I don't understand your country's complicated court system, or the reason why I'm being charged with something I've never even heard of. However, I did hear that people who have been charged can choose to participate in a duel to clear their name. Is that right? In which case, as long as I accept the charge, I can have an all-out fight with that champion duelist Clorend, right? I've got to admit, that's one of the most enticing offers I've ever received. When I privately sparred with her last time, she was obviously holding back. Real disappointing.
Hey! Don't you understand? You're currently the prime suspect for a major case. This isn't the place for you to be looking for fights.
Oh? Sounds like the Archon wants to lecture me on the ways of the Opera House. Then why don't you duel me too? I'm the kind of student that learns best in the heat of battle.
No. That's not what I meant.
Alas,
Purina ha
it
paura
would
di
appear that
Tartaglia.
communication with the defendant is going poorly, and we have made very little progress. In that case, let me explain everything from the very beginning again. The goal of this trial is to determine the culprit behind the serial disappearances case.
That case had nothing to do with him. You've got the wrong man.
Huh? What's going on?
Di nuovo lei.
Why is she interjecting again?
I told you it couldn't be one of the Fatui harbingers.
Miss Navia, this is the second time you've interrupted the court proceedings. I only tolerated your behavior last time because you were able to provide the court with a key eyewitness. But that was an exception rather than standard court protocol. I can very well charge you with contempt of court for your interjections.
Oh, please. Did you ever think I had any respect for this place's pointless theatrics? We can put that discussion aside for now. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to charge the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case. And if my charges prove true, then Tartaglia here will be proven innocent by default, correct?
Oh, a young lady has charged in and offered to clear my name. How fascinating. Well, I'd gotten half bored to death by all these rules and procedures anyway, so I'll take you up on that offer. So, Your Honor, is there nothing else for me to do now?
You may take a seat for now in the audience, but that doesn't mean the suspicions against you have been lifted. Now then, Miss Navia, who is the person you would like to charge instead?
That person is...
Questo, ovvio.
Marcel, the head of Confrérie of Cabrières.
Cioè, ci ho appena parlato.
What confrérie? Never heard of them in my life.
I've heard of them, but weren't they Spina di Rosula's sister organization?
Oh, is this going to be a friends to enemies type situation?
Please let me remind you, Miss Navia, that charging someone is an incredibly serious matter. Committing to the charge also means taking on the legal responsibilities associated with it. And if the charge fails, depending on the circumstances, you may also be charged with the crime of making a false accusation. Knowing this, do you still wish to charge this man?
Yes, I do.
In that case, I declare the charge to be valid. Miss Navia and attorneys, please take your places on the court. Members of the guards, please contact Mr. Marcel right away so that he may stand trial.
Infatti Marcel si è appena,
Mr. Marcel,
cioè, ha appena
you will
parlato
not
con
require
Navia.
an attorney. Is that correct?
Apologies. It all just happened so quickly. I still haven't figured out what's going on. I think an attorney won't be necessary. This is probably just a misunderstanding between me and Navia.
Very well. In that case, since both sides have now arrived, Miss Navia, please present your charges.
I would like to take everyone back to 3 years ago, to the case of Callus the Unfaithful. Only through elucidating what really happened in that case can we connect all the dots for the serial disappearances case.
Navia, do you really think that I was the one who killed your father? Come on, why would I do that? Callus was my benefactor, and remember both you and I only ran to the scene when we heard the sound of a gun. If that's enough to make me a suspect, wouldn't that make everyone at that banquet a suspect as well?
I think there's no point in getting into the specifics right now. The audience doesn't even have the big picture yet. Even I'm struggling to remember some details of that case.
Exactly correct, Your Honor. I must refresh everyone's memory about that case before I can explain my charge and reasoning.
I see. In which case, I will recount the findings about that case as originally recorded by Maison Gardiennage. On the day of the murder, Spina di Rosula hosted a large banquet in a countryside estate owned by the Confrérie of Cabrières.
Ok, dobbiamo cliccare.
During the banquet, all attending guests heard 2 gunshots from the courtyard.
Sì.
When the guests arrived at the scene, they found the primary suspect, Callus, holding a gun, while his acquaintance, Jacques, lay dead from a gunshot wound. The guards' investigation did not recover any other firearms from the scene. As a result, they concluded that the suspect's first shot must have missed, while the second must have taken Jacques' life. The suspect did not dispute this conclusion, and also declined to defend himself in court. Instead, he chose to prove his innocence through a duel. Callus was defeated by champion duelist Clarande in the ensuing duel, and soon succumbed to the injuries. These are the known facts about the case.
Ok.
The one with the motive to kill was Jacques, not my father. And even so, Jacques still had no reason to pull the trigger. In truth, the third person shot Jacques first, and was shot in turn by my father when my father seized the gun from him. After that, the true culprit turned the third person into water, erasing all traces of him from the scene. Thank you for the summary, Your Honor. Of course, the guard's conclusion appeared quite sensible to us at the time. However, we should revisit the case now that we've gained new information about the abilities of water from the primordial sea.
Ora tocca a noi. Il giorno dell'omicidio, la Spina di Rosula teneva un grande banchetto, di proprietà della congrega Cabrières. Abbiamo solo questo? Allora, vediamo qui. 2 spari, 2 spari. Benissimo. Vabbè, e allora che cosa? Autodifesa.
However, in the end he reconsidered, and instead shared everything with Callus, hoping to seek the last. Unfortunately for Jacques, the true culprit had already considered this possibility.
Ok. La scena del crimine. Hanno trovato i vestiti.
This assassin first shot Jacques, then turned to shoot Callus.
L'abbiamo capito. I colpi di pistola. La pistola. No. No. L'acqua.
A pile of clothing was found at the scene. The guards once believed they were used by Jacques, but now, since it was raining that...
Va bene. Ah, bastano questi?
The true culprit caused the hired assassin to dissolve into water, leading everyone to believe Callus was responsible for Jacques' murder.
Ok.
This is the true version of events.
So that's what happened. Wait, you're telling me something as dangerous as water from the primordial sea has been used for all these years?
What a great theory. It also explains Callus's and Jacques' respective motives. I guess they didn't shoot each other after all.
Mr. Marcel, you are the one being charged with the crime. You should provide a rebuttal if you wish to prove your innocence.
Ah, but I think I agree with everything Navia just said. In fact, there was nothing in her speech that directly implicated me.
Then, may I ask some questions? In my opinion, we primarily need to determine two things. One, do you have the evidence to back up your claims?
I'm afraid not. At least not at this very moment.
Boo! If you don't have any evidence, you should just go home!
I may not have the evidence with me, but I know where I could go to collect it. If we look up the deserted clothes against a record of people who went missing around the same time, we should be able to find a match. Considering the serial disappearances case, the guards probably kept careful records of all missing persons from around that time, regardless of age or gender.
That makes sense to me. Monsieur Neuvillette, I would consider this to be a reasonable investigative direction.
Why do I feel like Farina's acting a little differently today?
Maybe she's scared of embarrassing herself again?
Alternatively, she's become more diligent after charging an innocent citizen in the last trial.
My second question has to do with the ensuing duel. If the truth is indeed as you described, then why didn't Mr. Callus explain himself in court? If he had testified that a person had been dissolved, he could have at least mounted a defense.
I've thought about this too, and the answer is actually pretty simple. He felt there were things that were more important to him. The dissolving power of water from the primordial sea is an important secret for the true culprit of the serial disappearances case. My father could have exposed it for all to see, but he chose to take it to the grave. At that time, Spina di Rosula was in dire straits, and his reputation had already been shattered. He had no guarantee that going forward with the truth would allow the culprit to be brought to justice. What was certain, however, was that it would paint a gigantic target on my back.
Boss once told me that Demoiselle had already been selected as the next target of the serial disappearances case.
What?
If the secret had gotten out, the culprit would have fought an all-out war with Espina right there and then. I wouldn't have been the only one in danger. All of us would have stood to lose our lives. Of course, the guards might eventually figure out the truth of the matter and determine that we were in the right. But what good would that do? How can a hollow verdict protect anyone? Had this opera house ever given my father any kind of confidence in its brand of justice, Spina di Rosula would have had no reason to exist. But by staying silent, we retained the ability to deter our opponents and continue the stalemate. I was able to become Spina di Rosula's president, which made me harder to target, as well as giving me more time to grow and learn. And once I have figured out the truth and stepped up to the challenge, I will do what this opera house cannot, and restore my father's truth and honor back to him.
So, you mean to say, your father intended to die in the duelist's ring?
That's right.
Do you have any proof?
Of course. All you need is to ask his opponent, Clarand. I don't need your apology, your guilt, or your support from the shadows. You don't
Basta
have
che
to do
testimoni.
anything for my sake. But since he entrusted his will to you, Clarand, you should tell us the truth about his sacrifice.
So, during the duel, did you believe that Callus was intending to die?
Qui non si promette sulla
Yes,
Bibbia di dire
I
la
did.
verità.
As a champion duelist, I've fought many battles and taken a countless number of dishonored lives. In my line of work, I've seen all kinds of people give their all for the faintest hope to continue living. Some were determined, others passionate, and some even manic and twisted. Just one look and I can tell if a duelist is hoping to live or if they're looking to die. I hereby swear on my name and honor as a champion duelist that Mr. Callus never intended to leave the ring alive.
Since that's your testimony, I have no more questions. It appears there really are good grounds to reopen this case.
I concur. However, Miss Navia, you still have not explained the link between your father's case and the
E
serial
Marcel.
disappearances
Ah no.
case.
Right? What she said was fascinating, but kind of beside the point.
Wait, weren't they just talking about the serial disappearances case?
Of course, Your Honor. The two cases are connected via a matter of timing. In my father's case, the culprit intended to kill both Jacques and Callus. As a result, they planned to act after hearing 2 gunshots. And, at the end of Linny's trial, the culprit also only dissolved the victim in front of everyone because they realized they were at risk of being identified. The culprit could only time their actions so precisely if they were already at the scene. Coincidentally, Marcel attended both the banquet and the trial.
So that's why you suspected me. Even after hearing your reasoning, I still can't help but find it a little preposterous. I'm used to it, though. You've always been an impulsive and sentimental child, Navia. It's one of your
Ora non è che ti devi mettere a insultare le persone, eh? Devi rispondere esattamente sui fatti. Marcel, sei cominciato a... sei impulsiva, sei sensibile.
On top of that, does a person have to be physically present to control the timing? Can't someone remotely monitor the place?
Know what she can say to that.
I know that even with that, you might still think you can reduce the list of suspects with some further investigations until I'm the only one left on the list. Alas, who won't feel at least a little hurt by an accusation of murder from a girl you see as your own daughter? But if I were to dismiss this completely, you'd also think I'm not being considerate of your feelings. Ah well, let Uncle Marcel teach you another lesson. Do you know what the biggest flaw in your reasoning is?
I suppose you're gonna tell me anyways.
It's timing again. I'm a businessman by trade. From that standpoint, there's no reason for me to kidnap young women. It's a high-risk action with nothing to gain.
Quindi è un esperto.
I left my home in Snezhnaya when I was young to come to Poisson and work in some trade. My business only thrived when I received Callus's patronage. But the disappearances began before I ever stepped foot in Fontaine.
Questo è grave. Però è di Snezhnaya.
No, it's not your fault. I'm sure he had come prepared.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Would you like to check the date of my first business license against the first known case of the serial disappearances? You can also take a look at my border entry records, or ask my friends and family when I left Snezhnaya for the first time. Could those records and testimonies do something to appease the unspeakable anguish in your heart?
Seems like she got the wrong guy.
At this rate, Navia will be convicted for falsely accusing him.
I think you've done a superb job of dissecting your father's feelings as he neared the end of his life. But aren't you going against all of his wishes and expectations right now? He wished for you to become more rational, collected, and conscientious, instead of dwelling only on your own feelings. Once you've learned to be more considerate of others' feelings, and to stop rushing headlong into things, you'd have met most of his expectations.
This isn't just about me, and it never has been. The biggest difference between me and the rest of the victims is that I still have the ability to search for the truth. while that same agency has long been taken from them. The people whose families were destroyed by synth abuse, the people who lost their loved ones to the serial disappearances, and the people who suffered tragic ends due to their sense of justice. Many people's images are flashing before my eyes. I'm sure some are coming to those of you in the audience as well. And whose image do you see, Marcel? Is it a man named Vacher?
E chi dovrebbe essere?
Oh, so you do know that name.
I'm merely surprised you'd suddenly say the name of someone I've never even heard of.
I was waiting for you to say that.
2 years later. Ok. Ci possiamo fermare. Ci possiamo fermare, perfetto. Siamo all'entrata della fabbrica di synth. Ci fermiamo e ci vediamo alla prossima puntata. Molto bene.